Hello, this is Emma at Words and Peace and Friends Book Tours. Lucky you, you just recently watched a new video and here is another one. Today I'm really thrilled to talk to you about a book I recently saw at my public library. Now I have to tell you, and I know you're going to be jealous, I happen to live just 10 minutes away on foot from my public library, and it's the most amazing place. So, you know, when you want to have your daily walk, where do you go? To the library. And also, fortunately, all the brand new books are on the first floor when you arrive. So you can just meet all the goodies right away. And one book attracted my attention recently because of the author, David Bellos, and the title. So let me tell you a few things about the author. David Bellos, I actually read him for the first time, I believe last year. He wrote a book about translation, about the translation process and translators, entitled, Is That a Fish in Your Ear? With the reference to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, of course. David Bellos is a wonderful writer, and he teaches French literature and comparative literature at Princeton, so he kind of knows what he's doing. He's also a translator, professional translator, and a biographer. So I have never read any of his biographies of authors, so I think I'm probably going to do this next. So, but today, the book I'm going to present is actually a biography, but it's both a biography of an author and of a book together. The book is entitled The Novel of the Century, The Extraordinary Adventure of Les Misérables. And it was published in March, so March this year, 2017, by Farrar. And it's just a bit over 300 pages. Now, when you hear Les Misérables, you think, oh yeah, of course, I know the story. I've seen the musical, the movies. I know all about it. Well, there can be a major difference between watching a musical, a movie, and reading the book, which is fairly fake and has all kinds of different stories and insertions also of history narratives. Myself, of course, being French, I read Les Misérables in French and for pleasure, but also for studies when I was at the level of university. So I kind of thought that actually I knew quite a bit Les Misérables and even the book itself. Well, I tell you, when I read David Bellos' book, I realized there was so much I didn't know in this book. It's unbelievable. So it's really neat because he presents the book, as I said, like a biography. So how the book started, when did it start, and the connection with Hugo's life. Like, for instance, his positions on social issues, his political positions. You know, Hugo had a very active political life. And this is reflected in the book. And it's interesting to see his ideas through the plot. To be more specific, really, the author presents the book so from the very beginning, when Victor Hugo suddenly had some ideas about possibly writing this book, and then you see all the very long process of writing it, and in the meantime he was sent in exile. There were some difficulties on writing the book, and actually he put it to rest for quite a while, and then he went back to it. And then the whole process of publication, and he couldn't and could not and didn't want to come back to France at the time because the political power were totally opposite of his own ideas, and I believe also he was in danger. So he had to communicate with publishers and marketing issues, etc., from outside of France. So you've got all this explained in the book. Apart from that, there are also all kinds of very interesting details. For instance, in one part, Bellos studies how Victor Hugo chooses his words when he talks about carriages, you know, carts driven by pulled by horses. So there's all kind of different words possible in French. And depending on the social level of the people he was talking about, Victor Hugo chose a different word. When you read the book, and I guess especially in translation, you totally miss that. You don't realize, how each word was really precisely chosen and how it was impacted by society. He does also something similar with the vocabulary related to money. There were all kinds of different words to like different values, like a coin, depending on the value of the coin, you would have a different word in French at the time. And also, depending on where you were on the social ladder as well, you would not use the same word to designate the same thing. So same thing, when you read it, and even in French, and I remember never noticing those things, though I read it in French. And again, as I say, if you read it in English, I kind of doubt that the translator really worked hard on that. And I don't even know if it's possible to make all those differences in English with the vocabulary related to money. So it's fascinating to have all those really intricate details. You've got also all kind of explanations about how Victor Hugo named his characters in the book. Fascinating. And also numbers, the symbolism of some numbers. For instance, the prisoner number of Jean Valjean. Why this number? Well, there's a reason behind it, and I'm not going to tell you. Of course, you will have to read the book. But just to tell you how this book is a mine of information to really dig deeper in the book. But it's not presented in a super scholarly way. I mean, the content is very scholarly, but it's presented with fun. David Bellos has a lot of humor, and it's easy, I believe, to read. And as I said, just a bit over 300 pages. So whether you've read Les Misérables in French or in translation, or if you've even just watched a musical or movie, I really highly encourage you to read this book. And maybe that would be actually a very good invitation then for you to read or reread Les Misérables after that. And actually, if you would prefer to watch something about it instead of reading it, I'm going to give here down under the video a link to another YouTube video. It was published by the American bookstore in Paris called Shakespeare and Company, because they invited David Bellos there and he presented the book. Actually, he even read, there's a whole part of the video which is a reading of the book. But then there's question and answers, and David explains what he did in this book. It's close to an hour, I believe, and it's fascinating. So all kinds of ways for you to discover this book. So I hope you enjoy today's video and that it will encourage you to discover or rediscover a great French classic. Alors, au revoir et à la prochaine!